Dusk settled softly over the Badlands, casting golden lilac hues across the wide expanse, a glow that makes a man briefly forget his own troubles. Owen Carter rode with his head down, shoulders weary, hat tilted low as if to hide the years of sorrow etched into his features. His mount Storm trudged slowly, hooves scuffing the parched ground as if both man and beast shared a hidden load. A gust sighed through the creosote, bearing the scent of dry sage. Owen and Storm had been partners too long to be merely rider and horse. Storm was a sibling, a silent ear, the one who never judged when townsfolk hissed his missteps like holy chants. That evening, as the sun dipped low, Owen felt tears prick his eyes. An old cowboy cries not for himself, he thought, but for the creature who carried him further than any friend. It came quick as a flash. From a clump of brush, a sharp hiss, a twisting coil. Storm screamed, rearing up. Owen was hurled hard to the ground. He rolled and saw it, a rattlesnake's head striking like a blade, fangs deep in Storm's leg. The snake rattled once more, then slipped into darkness as if the earth swallowed it. The world grew deathly still. Owen scrambled to his knees. Storm stumbled, foam on his lips, eyes rolling wide. Owen pressed his hand to the bite, fingers quaking, then pulled his knife. He cut into the flesh, sucked, spat blood and venom, tied the leg tight with his kerchief. His hands moved fast but awkward. He knew the poison outran his efforts. Storm's body quivered beneath him, breaths ragged, heartbeat slowing. "Don't take him," Owen whispered hoarsely, tears cutting trails through dust on his face. "Not him too." His voice shattered into a raw cry, rising and fading into the heedless sky. Memories surged. His ranch sold to pay debts, neighbors turning away, his sister's letter unopened. All he had was this horse. Now Storm was slipping away. Owen pressed his forehead to Storm's mane, sobbing into hair that smelled of sweat and dust. The prairie gave no response, only the soft hum of crickets and the dull pain in his chest. Storm sank to the earth, legs folding, sides heaving. Owen knelt, helpless, knife slack in his hand, watching the light fade in his companion's eyes. A sound came then, soft, almost lost to the breeze. Steady footsteps nearing. Owen raised his head, startled from the dusk. A figure approached, her form lit by the final streak of sunset. A woman, dark hair plaited back, carrying a woven bag at her side. She moved as if the desert itself bore her steps. Owen's first instinct was wariness. His hand reached for the revolver at his hip. An Apache on open land meant danger, or so settler stories claimed. Yet before he could speak, she knelt beside Storm with calm command. Without looking at Owen, she touched the wound, eyes focused, face unreadable. "Who are you?" His started voice breaking, torn between doubt and desperate hope. She leaned near Storm's chest, then opened her bag. Inside were herbs, cloth strips, a small stone pestle. She spoke words in her tongue, low and steady, stroking Storm's mane. Owen's revolver slid back into its holster, almost without thought. "Can you save him?" The question tumbled out, raw and vulnerable. Her gaze met his, dark and calm. "Snake's poison moves fast," she said softly, "but I have a cure." She chewed leaves into a pasty, pressed it to the wound, bound it tight. Her hands moved with certain care, as if she'd done this 100 times. She made shallow cuts above the bite, drawing venom out, murmuring softly. Owen watched, awed, half afraid to believe. Storm shuddered, his breathing uneven, then steadied. His eyes flickered with fragile light. Owen exhaled, relief and disbelief tangling in his chest. Night gathered around them. The desert cooled, stars dotting the sky. The woman kindled a small fire with dry brush, flames casting soft warmth into the dark. Owen sat across from her, words faltering at his lips. "Thank you," he said at last, voice rough. He wanted to call her Miss, as if courtesy could ease his discomfort, but the word felt thin. She didn't answer, only placed her hand on Storm's neck, whispering again. Her profile glowed in the firelight, cheekbones sharp, eyes shadowed, mouth set in quiet resolve. Owen saw faint scars on her wrists, marks of old battles or bindings. She carried sorrow, he realized, yet her posture stayed upright, her gaze unyielding. Their silence weighed heavy but not hostile, a silence of strangers bound by a fragile thread, his horse's life. At last she spoke. "Horses carry our burdens, but they share our wounds too." Owen blinked, struck by the truth. His lips parted, and before pride could stop him, he said, "I talk to him, you know, like a brother." She looked at him, not with judgment, but with something quieter, steadier, a faint recognition. The fire crackled, sparks rising into the night, and for the first time in years Owen felt less alone. As dawn crept pale across the horizon, Storm breathed easier, chest rising steady. Owen sat slumped by the fire, exhaustion heavy. His last sight before sleep took him was the woman tending the embers, her face calm as stone. Hands gentle on the creature he loved. Tears dried on his cheeks, leaving salt and a faint spark of hope. Morning spread soft and golden over the plain. Dust clung to Owen's boots as he walked beside Storm, who limped but lived. The horse's head bobbed wearily, yet his breath was steady. Owen's heart swelled with each sound. Beside him, the woman walked, her bag slung over her shoulder, silent as the dawn. She hadn't shared her name, but Owen knew she carried something stronger than words. They reached town by noon. Wooden planks creaked under boots and shop windows flashed judgment like mirrors. Whispers rose before Owen tied Storm to the post. His presence was known, a man sunk by debts, a cowboy on the edge of scorn. But the woman beside him drew sharper stares. Her dark plaits and steady stride marked her as Apache. Grace, on the boardwalk with arms crossed, leaned toward another widow. Her whisper loud enough for Owen to hear. He's fallen so low he walks with savages now. The words stung like stones. Owen flushed, heat crawling up his neck. He kept his eyes on Storm but felt every gaze pressing down. The woman walked as if unburdened, her chin high, her silence louder than their sneers. Sheriff Amos stepped from his office, hat low, eyes sharp. "Carter," he said flatly, "you still owe grazing fees. And mind who you bring to town. Some folk aren't welcome." His gaze lingered on the woman. Owen's throat tightened. He wanted to speak, but shame tied his tongue. The woman stood unfazed, her calm a shield. Owen nodded stiffly, muttering about supplies. The sheriff grunted and turned away, leaving dust and judgment behind. Inside the store, Owen bought flour, salt, and coffee. He paused, then added beans and a tin of sugar. The shopkeeper raised a brow when Owen handed the items to the woman, but ignored it. She accepted the offering with quiet grace, a faint nod in her eyes. A silent act of kindness passed between them, unseen by others. That night they camped by a stream, water murmuring over rocks, reflecting moonlight like a silver path. Storm grazed nearby, his limp easing. The woman ground herbs between stones, applying fresh paste to his leg. Owen watched, struck by her care, the precision of her hands. He cleared his throat. "Why help me?" he asked. "You don't know me. You owe me nothing." Her hands kept working. "Because life is sacred," she said softly. "Even a horse's life. Even a man's who weeps." The words burned through him like truth lit by flame. The town saw him as failure, debt, shame, and worn boots. Yet she saw something else, not weakness in his tears, but proof he could still feel. He reached into his pack, pulled out his last coffee rations. "Here," he said, pouring into a tin cup and sliding it across the fire. She paused, then took it, her lips curving into a faint smile. Owen felt a stir, something long buried, a warmth, not of fire, but of being seen. Wolves howled far off, their cries weaving through the night. Owen loaded his rifle, keeping watch. The woman set torches in the ground, firelight pushing back the dark. At first he thought the wolves grew closer. Then he saw the truth. 2 ranch hands from town stumbling, eyes cruel. "Well, look here," one slurred. "Carter's found a new bride." The other laughed, spitting near the fire. "Bet that horse could pay his debts if we take him." Owen's stomach knotted. His hands shook around the rifle. He was no longer the bold youth who rode fearless. Shame had worn him down, left him trembling. The woman rose, her figure framed by firelight, facing them with quiet strength. "Go back," she said, voice calm but sharp. "The land knows your deceit," the men jeered. One swung his whip toward her, leather snapping. Owen's chest surged with fear. For a moment he nearly froze. Then something broke free. Not pride, not anger, but a need to protect. He stepped forward, rifle steady, voice firm for the first time in years. "This horse, this woman, you won't touch either." The words rang like a storm crack. The ranch hands sneered, sizing him up, but the fire in Owen's eyes burned too fierce. Behind him, wolves howled again, closer, as if the land echoed his stand. The men cursed, spat into the dirt, and retreated into the night. Their steps faded to silence. Owen lowered his rifle, chest heaving, sweat cold in his brow. Relief and quiet pride tangled within him. The woman touched his shoulder briefly, a steady gesture. No words passed, none were needed. Dawn rose gently, light spilling across the plain. Storm grazed, strong enough to lift his head and snort at the morning. Owen watched, a lump in his throat. He turned to the woman, gratitude swelling. But it was more than thanks. Her remedy had drawn not only venom from his horse, but something darker from him. His shame, his silence, his belief he was beyond redemption. The old soul of the tale murmured then, as if to all who'd listen, "The West is harsh, yes, it grinds men down, leaves them empty. But sometimes it sends a stranger with steady hands, one who mends not just flesh, but deeper wounds. Know this. If you carry shame, if the world's scorn weighs heavy, remember, healing comes in silence, in the grace you never saw coming."